everyone. Welcome, welcome to Element. God, let me just put my teeth back in. Welcome to Elemental Cartomancy and welcome to Roundtable Readings. As you can see, I'm joined here by the lovely Brian from Blushing Nerd Tarot. Welcome, Brian. Thank you very much for joining me. Um, yeah, it's been a while since I've had anyone on, since anyone's been brave enough to come on and get a tarot reading like right live in front of everyone. So I always really appreciate it when someone does come on. Um, how are you doing? Are you doing all right?
Doing great, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, and I can't believe that anybody would be hesitant to come on and get a reading from you live. But I'm eager, so I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, good stuff. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, I could understand to a degree. You know, it's quite a personal thing.
It is.
Like, so yeah, I suppose it's not for everyone to come on and
Sure.
bare their soul in front of the whole wide interwebs. But no, it's great to be here and to be able to do this for people. Um, I think it's really interesting doing it in this format because for you, from your point of view, you're not only getting a reading from me, you're also getting the benefit of everyone's kind of a experience and thoughts who is here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'll say whilst the chat's reasonably quiet, I'll go down and I'll say a quick hi to people whilst it's manageable. Sorry, just as I was about to hit the go live button, Luna, my dog, came over and decided that she wanted attention. So she's underneath me just now, whinging and whinging. And if on the off chance my husband happens to be watching this, could you come and get your dog, please? um, but he probably won't be, so we'll probably be stuck with her for a bit, but that's fine. Anyway, let me say hi to the folks that are here. So Hershey was first here. Hi, Hershey. She says, hi, Brian, Chris, and everyone in chat, sending blessings and positive vibes to all. It's lovely to see you. We have got Simon here from the Hermit's Cave. He says, oh, an hour later. I'm in bed, but I'll try my damnedest to stay awake for this. Lovely to see you. I really say Brian, and I know his name is Brian, but we don't call Simon Brian. um, Yeah, it's lovely to see you, Simon. We've got Ange from Roots and Waves. Hi, Ange. We've got Red Wing. Early Ritual won't be able to stay for this damn appointment, but will definitely be part of the replay gang. Brilliant. Brian, of course, is here too. We've got the lovely Deanne. So sorry I can't be here tonight. Karate stuff. But we'll watch back for sure. So Deanne's son Max is learning karate. So she often isn't able to be here for like all of the live or sometimes any of it. But that's fine. We'll forgive you.
Yep. I've been down that path myself with my son, so I totally understand.
Oh, what age is your son? I didn't realize you had
He'll
kids,
be
Brian.
he'll be 15 in August, so
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Wow. So did you have him when you were 5 years old, young man?
No, I'm a lot older than that. I actually had him late, so yeah, yeah. Didn't you see all the gray down here? I have a lot of gray, so yeah.
Oh, you must hide it well.
It's just the microphone hides it for me.
um, let's see. So we've also got Nick is here. Nikki Preston. Hi, Nick. It's lovely to see you. The lovely Naomi's here. Hi, Naomi. Marita from Madame Maru's House of Cards. Kathy from Tortoise Shell Moon. Love these roundtable readings. Good to see you, Brian, says Kathy.
Great to see you
So
too.
it's good to see all yous. So before I witter on about what roundtable readings is, Brian, do you, for any of my subscribers here who've maybe not, met you before, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's that's one of those questions. It's like, how do I either think of the right things or think of anything to say, and then also how do I stop when I've just been talking for an hour and like giving you my life history? So, yeah, I mean, I'm from the Midwest in the U.S. I've been part of TarotTube. I think I actually have a channelversary coming up, but I feel like I can't even. Um, really claim that because I've been missing for so long. So, but I just love the community. I kind of discovered TarotTube about 2.5 years ago. Started watching Simon, and then that led to others, including Chris, and really just love our community and have just enjoyed interacting at all different levels as much as I could. And I've been very busy for the last year almost with school and things like that. I was taking some classes, and so just glad to hop back in and really happy to be here.
Amazing. And you're right. It's one of those questions that really courteous and a good host would have given you a heads up and told you I was going to ask you
Nope,
that. But
nope, just
I'm
throw 'em
a,
at me.
I'm a bit of a scatterbrain, so I didn't quite do that, did I?
Not a problem.
But yeah, I was just looking. I've put a link in the chat to Brian's channel, everyone. So if everyone could make sure that you're subscribed, because Brian is doing some, some chat about spreads and stuff. So definitely want to check that out. That was why I reached out to Brian, because he was talking about the Celtic Cross, and I was like, I like the Celtic Cross. Like, we can make something happen here.
Let's do a thing.
But it was Tom, wasn't it, that came on and joined you live, and you had a really good conversation. I thought it was really interesting. So definitely everyone subscribe. Yeah, I was just looking, and it says that you joined on the 6th of June, 2022.
Oh, okay. So
So
I'm past my 2 year.
yeah, so you've been doing it longer than you think. You're a dab
Guess
hand.
Yeah, again though, I don't feel like I can claim that length. So maybe if I stay consistent this year, next year I'll have a big 3-year celebration.
Cool. To be honest with you, I think most YouTube channels, you'll find that they kind of a dip in and out, and they'll appear and then you won't hear from them for a while and stuff. Like me with pre-recorded videos, it's rare that I actually put out pre-recorded stuff anymore.
Mhm.
Well, I suppose for a variety of reasons, but yeah, I think we all kind of do our own thing, and I think that's all right. Do you know what I mean? Um, But anyway, yeah, so we're here to do a roundtable reading. So for anyone who hasn't seen us do roundtable readings before, I'm joined by a guest querent. In this case, we're joined by the lovely Brian. And we do a full tarot reading. So on YouTube, we're used to seeing a lot of kind of a free reading format, a couple of cards to answer a question, and it's usually quick fire. Which is brilliant. I love it. I love doing that. That was what I started doing. That was why I started my channel, because I love doing readings and I love doing that style of reading. So don't think that I'm knocking it, but it's obviously limited because there's no you don't really have much an opportunity to have a conversation. Which for me, one of the big things about a tarot reading is it's a conversation between the reader and the querent. So I thought, well, how can bring more of that realistic tarot reading atmosphere to this? And this is what this was what we landed on. So we're going to do a full tarot reading. Brian has got a question which I'll get him to tell us about in a wee second. And card by card, we're all going to read for Brian. I'll read for him. Brian will have his input. And everyone in the chat will be invited to tell us what you think about, each card as it comes up, and then we can kind of draw some conclusions and stuff. So to get us started, Brian, and I'm going to put you in I never remember what one it is. There we go. I'm going to put you in the spotlight. Tell us a bit about the question that you're asking the cards today.
Yeah. So, as often is the case, life just kind of sometimes hands you some unexpected opportunities. And I consider myself to be a very fortunate person. Very blessed in my life situation. And I think when that's the case and things are stable, that's least when you are looking for opportunities and least expecting things to come around or hoping that things will come around. And yet, I have had something come up that it could be a great opportunity, could be a positive change, but I'm also happy where I am. So I feel like it's one of those good scenarios that um, I, I really can't lose, I think, by not taking any action. But at the same time, um, I'm always looking to grow, and this is one of those opportunities that could be a real growth point for me. Um, and I'm just excited to explore the idea, and it's fresh and new. And Chris asked me earlier in the week, and by the way, I didn't say it yet, but I really appreciate you moving the time a little bit to accommodate my schedule. So thank you for going on a little bit later. I'm sorry to keep you um, up later for this,
Oh, it's not a problem.
um, but yeah, it was a recent development, and Chris reached out to me when we were setting this up and said if I had a question that I should let him know what it might be, and this sort of came up yesterday, and it was a clear winner. And to add some context too, when I was doing some stuff this week that ultimately led to this. And before setting out on my week, I actually did a little bit of a 3-card reading for myself, just sitting there having coffee one morning before I set off on my work adventures. And sure enough, everything about it really said there's something new coming. There's a new opportunity. There's you have some, and the past has been a lot of work building up to something that's going to maybe pay off. And um, I always try to listen to that, and but at the same time, you just don't know what angle it's going to take. And in this case, it slammed me in the face. it was pretty much spot on. It was exactly what was coming out of the cards at the beginning of the week turned out to be true. And so it can only get better tonight with everybody's help and Chris's reading. So that's it. That's where we're coming from.
Brilliant. Excellent. So I've got a summary of Brian's question going along the bottom there. So I think that sums it up pretty well. We can make changes to that if we need to. But that's just for anyone who's kind of coming in and not sure what we're doing. Then they've got that there. We don't need to keep repeating what the question is. Okay, for anyone who's interested, Simon, if you're still here, you'll be fucking delighted because well, let me swap us round and then turn on. There we go. Table camera, because I'm using the blue box. Now it's not a blushing full. I don't have a blushing full, but it's a non-blushing full blue box Rider-Waite Smith that we'll be perusing tonight. So yeah, I'm just sitting shuffling that. But the first thing I always do when I'm doing a reading for people is I'll pull. Normally I'll use soul cards. Soul cards is what I always use when I do roundtable readings. Usually gives us a nice kind of just a nice primer, sometimes a bit of a summary of the whole situation. Sometimes we don't really know what the soul card's getting at until we get really knee deep into the reading, and then it starts to become clear. So I've shuffled this up, so I'm ready just to turn over the top card, so we'll see what comes up. So this is the soul card that we've got. For anyone who's not experienced with soul cards, they don't have set interpretations. I'll maybe put this down and I'll zoom in on it and let us kind of a look at it and mull it over whilst I'm shuffling. They don't have set interpretations, so everyone will see something different when they look at a soul card, potentially. So for me, when I look at this, I see this as like a meeting of the minds. It's about things coming together, things that were previously separate, that are now kind of coming together, and almost like you've got this jigsaw puzzle and you've never quite gotten around to doing it, but then all of a sudden you start putting all the pieces together and you start seeing the bigger picture. There's also like kind of, I don't know how well it comes across, but like so you've obviously got the two faces that are coming together and making like almost one, but you've got this leaf as well, and it's like one leaf that's making this pattern, and the hands too. So this card always makes me think of like our, what's the phrase I'm trying to think of? Like our imprint on the world around about us, the imprint that our actions and our words have on our external environment.
Mm.
So that that could be the not necessarily the physical environment, but the people around us, our world around about us, basically. So in that context, this can be like that. This could be saying like this is the opportunity you've been waiting for and you've been working towards. You've been kind of working your arse off for a long time, and now it's like things are coming together. In a way that perhaps you never thought possible before. You never quite saw it before, but now that everything's coming together, the picture's starting to make sense. So those are my ramblings on that card. Brian, have you got any thoughts on that? Anything that you see there?
Yeah, two things. First, they came to mind was, and it's you brought it together with the hands and the imprint and the sort of things coming together. Uh, Definitely in the work space, that's sort of what's happening. There's a lot of that right now, but even outside of that, I mean, I'm in I'm very lucky in my family life. My wife and I are best friends and have been together forever. We just actually on earlier this month it was 30 years since we started dating, and
Oh, wow.
we've been married for 18. But we've been working together a lot on some home improvement projects and just really having a blast with it, which is great because there's been a lot of disruption. And with that disruption, oftentimes that can just sort of exacerbate any issues that there might be. But instead, we're just having fun with it. And so that's been great. So that came to mind with this as well. So it can easily apply to two very distinct scenarios in my life right now, but it applies
Yeah.
either way.
So that's really interesting that you see that kind of you see some sort of echo of your relationship with your wife there. So let me ask you this: what have you talked this over with your wife? Like, what are her thoughts on the opportunity? Because that's where I would go next if I was seeing if I was seeing like my relationship and and I'd asked a completely different question, then I'd be like, right, okay, well, what's that? What's my other half's thoughts on it?
Yeah,
So
she definitely agrees that it's sort of time for this sort of offer and this kind of opportunity to come about. Just for the same reasons, it's just one of those scenarios that for many years I've been kind of working on developing some pretty sophisticated things at the current place, and just have been rewarded handsomely for it, and everything's been great. But at the same time, it's just yeah, I think she definitely is encouraging me to kind of explore this and at least find out if it's worth making any big changes for. So yeah.
okay, interesting. Right, I am going to see what some of the people in the chat
Yeah.
think. I'm just looking. Okay, I thought that Beth's here, and so is Miss Moonlight. So hi to you folks. Let's see. So Nick or Nikki. I hope that you go by both Nick and Nikki, because I've been calling you both. But
You are
can tell
now.
me if one's wrong. Yeah, exactly. So I'm seeing a protection card.
Mm.
2 people blocking negativity from the hands trying to push in or push their opinions on others. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Um, oh, he says, yeah, I'm easy. That's fine then. And yeah, Naomi saw something similar, a similar vibe with mental blocking. So yeah, no, I see it now that you mention it. I see it, but it's just interesting because my mind just didn't go there at all when I first saw that card.
Yeah. Same.
So that's interesting. There's a protective element there as well. So we'll definitely see how that kind of comes into play as we go through the spread. Let me. Do I want to zoom back out just now? Nah. Do you know what? We'll maybe stay zoomed in whilst we do the small cross, and then when we start getting to cards 3 and beyond, I'll maybe zoom out then. So I'll explain. So as everyone knows, I'm using the version of the Celtic Cross that Rachel Pollock sets out in 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Okay, so I know that there's about 50,001 different versions of the Celtic Cross. I personally, I do use a few different versions, but this is the one that this is probably my favourite, and this is the one that we're going to use today. So the first card. Now you can look at the first. Rachel explains the first card in a couple of different ways. So it's maybe actually easier if I talk about the first 2 cards, the small cross itself. So we've got the first card that goes in the centre, and then we've got the card that crosses it. So often we'll see these described as like the present situation or the querent, like you where you are just now, and then the crossing is maybe like the stuff that you're dealing with right now, or it's it's the external, basically. It's a challenge or an obstacle, or just basically the question. It's the thing that you're interacting with right now that's relevant to the question. So there's that. She also kind of talks about it being like the internal and the external, and what I mean by that is like the internal. The first card is like how you maybe feel about the situation deep inside, but the external, the crossing card, is how it's presenting on the surface, and it can be interesting to look at it that way because it kind of so if the internal is telling us that deep inside you're raring to go, like big fire energy, for example, but then the external, how that's actually presenting itself on the surface level, is like really reserved, or some sort of kind of a timid energy, then we know that there's something blocking there, because you've got all of this energy deep inside you, but there's something blocking you from presenting that. And then it becomes about exploring what it is that's blocking that. So I tend to go for the internal and the external, or the the inner and the external, the outer presentation. But
Yeah.
we could be quite flex, I guess, about that. So anyway, so the first card that we get, it's the Ace of Cups. So I mean, talk about someone offering you something new. I think that it's actually really nice that it's a cups card that comes up, because when we think about like career opportunities, we tend to go down the realms of like cups and pentacles, and maybe even sword with their kind of a razor sharp logic and all that. Whereas cups, it just kind of drives home, that this isn't just about like kind of like making money, and this is about fulfillment. This is about actually having that kind of a connectedness, and that just feeling that emotional connection to what you're doing, and this actually matters a lot to you.
Yes.
An ace, particularly with the imagery here, you will see a hand coming out and presenting something to us. So I suppose that kind of speaks to the question itself. This is a new opportunity. And if this wasn't a 10 card reading, if this was a 1 card reading, then I think I would feel pretty good about the opportunity, and I'd be telling you to go for it, because there's the potential for there's the full potential of water there, which is that feeling of fulfillment and being really kind of connected to what you're doing, and connected to the people around about you too, and really in touch with your deeper self. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's something about this it's not just surface level, it goes deep within. What's your thoughts on getting the Ace of Cups, Brian?
Yeah, first we can just stop there and just all chat for the rest of the time because if this was one card reading, I agree. Yeah, I think it's great. No, it's very fitting. That was one of the things that came up at the beginning of the week for me. That led me to the same um sort of thought process that maybe something like that was gonna come up, and so really interesting that it pops up as the first card here. It's
Okay,
fascinating. Yeah.
good, great. So, folks in the chat, let us know what you think about the Ace of Cups in this position. How would you interpret this card? What do you think that this is saying to Brian? What advice would your be? What would your advice be um, based on this card? Um, I'll move on swiftly to the next card because I think it's always really helpful to look at the first two cards of the Celtic Cross together in context. So this, as we say, is the kind of the external or how it's presenting on the outside, and I mean it's another good one. It's the Six of Wands. So again, feeling really optimistic and really charged and energized by this opportunity that's been presented. I think that these cards are really, when I was given the example of the inner and outer, I was talking about how it can be good because sometimes it can show us that things are maybe clashing a wee bit or not quite in sync. But in actual fact, I think that this couldn't be more in sync because deep down, we've got that Ace of Cups feeling, that that potential for really feeling that potential for being fulfilled, and how that's presenting externally as a Wands card, and it's the Six of Wands. It's feeling really happy and proud, and like there's you could really accomplish something here. But as well, like when we talk about the external, when we look at this particular card, we're often seeing how others are reacting, as we're looking at our bigger world. We are looking at like the people around about us and how things are bouncing off of them. And the Six of Wands is a really good card for that because it's a card of, sixes are harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Wands card, we see this kind of this victory march, this celebration where he's being charged by the crowd that are cheering him, but the crowd are being charged. They're living vicariously through him, through his accomplishments. So there's this like mutual exchange of energy. So this, I suppose, suggests to me that, well, for one thing, everything seems pretty in sync. Like how you feel deep down seems to be how you're presenting. So that's good. But also, I feel as though the folks around about you must be really happy for you as well for this opportunity. Those that know about it, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's have a wee look here and see. So Nikki says you both summed it up brilliantly. Really positive and new beginnings. Both cards are working well together. Really positive. Ange says the doors blown wide open for this opportunity so far, Brian.
Absolutely.
And Naomi says we'll also have great support in this if you need it. Yeah,
That's a good point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, have you got any other thoughts on the Six of Wands or on those first two cards, Brian?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like to some extent, so the Six of Wands, it's sort of a victory lap card, but at the same time, there's more to the journey, with
Mm,
if you just thinking about the wand suit. And um the nice thing about it is that support. So Naomi kind of hit it there, just the idea of it's not a hollow victory lap. It's not somebody that's just sort of like um you know landing on a shallow triumph of some sort. It is it's something that is celebrated as a community. So that all of it just sort of it's a positive thing. I hope that that it does apply and others view like other people in my circle. I hope it applies. I hope they think of it that way too, and I think they do. But that's I really do I love that those are the first two to pop up. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that's really nice. We just need to don't let us down from here. I'm like to my deck now. Behave yourself. Don't be throwing any spanners into the works.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, but that'll keep it interesting, right? We can't just have all sunshine and roses.
I know. That's it. Right, brilliant. Angie had also said, so going back to the original soul card, I see it as one person leaning against a mirror or reflective space. Regardless of how great this opportunity may be, you have to go within and see how you feel. Yeah,
absolutely.
agreed. Definitely. Right, okay, let me zoom out a smidge, and we will move on to the next card. So the next card, card number 3, I would put down at the bottom, and that is the basis card. And we've got the Queen of Pentacles coming out here. So the basis can talk to different things. Basically, it's telling you like what's behind it all, what's started this chain of events. Sometimes it can speak to like a particular event in the past that's an actual event that's kick-started everything. Sometimes it can just be like it could just look at like a quality within you that's kind of a feeding the machine, feeding the whole thing, if that makes sense. So Queen of Pentacles, I always think of the queens as kind of a nurturing, creating and maintaining environments for everyone else to thrive within that particular element. So obviously we can see from the kind of the cups and the wands, there's lots of kind of this matters a lot to you, and there's lots of passion in it. But make no mistake that this is very much maybe what's kind of a sparked this in the first instance was wanting to create this stable environment, stable home, stable environment for your family. This did start off as a kind of wanting to, I suppose, protect and nurture your family to keep everyone safe. That's what the Queen of Pentacles would say to me. Have you got any particular thoughts on that, Brian? Because a lot of people will read that differently from me.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely hits. And I agree with Naomi. It could also certainly be my partner. Providing a very supportive environment always. What also came to mind immediately was my boss, who gave me free reign over my territory with the most rock solid support for anything I wanted to explore and do. So she gave me that freedom of movement and support that I felt totally confident in anything I wanted to pursue. And without that, both at home and at work, success would have been much more difficult.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. Okay. Let us know in the chat if you've got any other thoughts. I always ask what are people drinking, and I forgot today. So I've got a cup of tea, and for those of you that always slag me off for drinking decaf, I'm actually drinking normal tea today. I felt as though Brian deserved like a fully functioning caffeine-fueled Chris for his reading, rather than me nearly falling asleep on decaf tea.
That is brave at this time of night for you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I know. That's okay.
Always going the
What
extra
about you, Brian?
I have a Speyside single malt in honor of Scotland, your home. So, and some
Thank you very much.
carbonated water.
Very nice. Nikki has got a cup of coffee. So Nikki's also in the UK. So it's late for Nikki too. So
Yeah, I hope
Nikki's obviously much more hardcore than me on the coffee.
I'm pretty hardcore on coffee too, but I'm also old, so it stops at 2 p.m. with the caffeine, and I switch to decaf.
Okay, so Ange says the Queen of Pence can be about maintaining a healthy home and work-life balance. Perhaps this new opportunity will assist with that. Okay,
Could be.
could. Naomi is drinking a ginger shot, feeling a little sickly.
Mm,
Um, and Ange is drinking water, but just finished a chai tea. Very nice. We're all very fancy today, aren't we?
yeah. Pinky's extended. I have to point out, I am drinking from my now I I know people will have opinions, so
Oh,
pardon my
oh,
um
I think we need to make you bigger for this.
so this is my Coronation China cup because we were in London last year. And I had to pick up a cup and saucer just because I was a filthy American tourist, and that's what you do. So now, if you see me, here's a little tip: if you see me on YouTube, and I'm drinking from this cup, it's probably scotch or something along those lines. But so that's
Quite
my
right.
little
That's nice.
nod.
It's quite a nice wee cup, so it is.
It is, yeah. I mean, we got it at one of the one of the many museums. I think I got this on the way out of Westminster Abbey in the gift shop.
Right.
Exit through the gift shop, as always.
um, like just on that subject matter, and I'll quickly say this, then I'll quickly move on. Uh, I have just started, so I'm not reading it. I'm listening to the audiobook of Prince Harry's autobiography, Spare.
Mm, yeah,
And I would encourage people to read or listen. I think it's quite interesting. I always think it's good to hear different points of view on things.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Mhm.
Card number 4 is going to go to the left, and that's going to be it's kind of like the past card. So these are like kind of a past events, things that were kind of a maybe still affecting the present situation, but we're kind of a moving away from.
Mm,
Okay. Well, we've got the magician. I mean, to me, that what that says is that shows you building up your skills, your skill base,
yeah,
and getting yourself to a place where they felt able to extend the opportunity to you. Pretty
yeah,
simple.
yeah.
But also, the magician acts as like a conduit. He's kind of a between worlds, between the spirit world and the physical world. So he's bringing, when he does the as above, so below, I believe that he's bringing down energy from the spirit worlds or
Mm,
whatever you want to call the spirit world. You know, that other place, that deeper place. And he's kind of a like manifesting that in the physical world. So it's a manifesting thing.
mhm.
Um, and so maybe that kind of a that maybe applies a wee bit to your situation, that kind of a being between worlds and how that's I suppose just allowed this opportunity for you.
Yeah, and I think it's the idea of between worlds is kind of interesting because they're certainly I've been in a transition period for the last month or so of kind of reconnecting because I set everything aside that really fed me. Um, I set aside for um, almost a year taking classes toward a master's degree that just it took every bit of my free time and every bit of my energy, and I had nothing left. I mean, I spared whatever I could for my family, and but I would stop work and I would wheel my chair over to my school desk and start doing that, and I worked until late at night, and that happened nearly every day for almost a year, and so one of the things I missed most is this community and all of you folks and just connecting. And a lot of that represents, um, my what feeds my soul, my spiritual connection. And a lot of that comes from here. So the magician, reaching out and reminding me that that's a thing that I need in my life, that's another part of it too.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really nice. Um, I know what it's like when you sad, but when I was at uni, I kind of did the same thing, particularly in my last year. Like I felt as though I just gave so much to everything. Um, so I was doing my 5th year at uni.
Hmm.
So I was getting my master's and I was also working like 25 hours a week at the same time, which I mean, I know nowadays isn't really that much, but for me back then it was, it took a hell of a lot out of me.
Yeah.
Because like it was like full time at uni I was doing. It was like a full
Hmm.
time kind of a course thing. Um, so yeah, I remember it nearly broke me. So it did. It really did. But anyway, I got there and
Yeah.
in one piece, and all is well that ends well. But sorry, this isn't about me.
No,
Uh,
please. Yeah, that's like to share.
yeah,
Welcome in, Hershey. By the way, I know you posted a in the chat earlier, but it looks like you're back in the live now. So welcome in.
yeah, yeah. Hi, Hershey. Let's see. Ange had some thoughts on the magician. So you have the experience and the tools for the job. It's why this opportunity is presenting itself to you because you're more than qualified. Something else that occurred to me, by the way. So when I look at the minors, the PIP minors particularly, I kind of a look at them as being related to their major counterpart. So, for example, the aces are related to the magician.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because on the Fool's Journey, it's the magician that he comes across and he sees him like kind of well, I think it depends on who you read and what you
Mhm.
read, but I think the Fool's got the 4 items in his backpack, and the magician kind of
Mm.
takes them from him or levitates them out and shows him basically the full potential of these objects. He shows him what it can do, you
Yeah.
know. So I
Yeah.
kind of liken it to like if you if you were to decide, right, I want to learn to play the guitar, and you go out and buy this guitar, and you've no idea what to do with it, you don't even know how to hold it properly, but you've got this guitar and you've made the first step. Then you get yourself a guitar teacher who comes in and takes the guitar right off you and plays the most amazing tune in the world, and you're just so inspired and in awe of it, um, and really shows you the potential of what you can do with that tool. That's how I think about the Fool coming across the magician on that journey.
Hmm.
And it's that kind of that initiation, that inspiration that I suppose that separates out into the 4 aces, elementally.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we've got the magician and the past with all 4. And it's like right now where we are is we've made that. It's like it feels like we've made a choice. It feels like we've selected one of the 4 and said, right, I'm going to concentrate on this.
Hmm.
This is where I'm going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I thought it was interesting that they were kind of right next to each other.
Right.
Let's see. Brian, I fully understand about university sucking every last drop of your
Yeah.
soul, but congrats to you for pursuing a higher degree. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Ange. Yeah.
Yeah, Naomi, working and studying is tough. Um, I was starting some chili and just finished the prep, says Hishi.
That'll pay off
Uh,
later.
it will. It will. Okay. Um, so if anyone has any more thoughts on the magician or indeed any of the other cards, then pop them in the chat. The next card goes above. So this is the 5th card we're on to now. And I think Rachel calls this a potential outcome.
Mm.
Now we can read it like that. Sometimes I try and look at it more as where we're aiming for,
Hmm.
the outcome that we're envisaging, that we're aiming for.
Yeah.
Which still that still makes sense in the context. That still is a potential outcome. But when I see above, I think like, conscious. I think in the head, so
Right.
I think this is where I'm aiming. So
Mhm.
that's kind of one that I put my own wee spin on, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we've got the Nine of Cups. Now, I am very much a numerology guy. I look at nines as completion.
Yep.
For me, tens are a form of completion. It's kind of almost like when you can step outside yourself and acknowledge the completion, but it's also the renewal. It's 10 reduces to 1. It's the renewal of the cycle, and it's like kind of a starting over again. So 9 is the true completion for me. So what's nice is we see the kind of, all right, well, we've got this opportunity. Where you're aiming for naturally is to see that through, to see that through to its full potential. So yeah, for me, the Nine of Cups, we John Travolta there, we his closed off body language. I know maybe seems a wee bit smug to folk, but when I think about what this card is getting at, what its essence is for me, it's true fulfillment. It's feeling happy about where you are, and yeah, I mean, like you're kind of you've got the accomplishments, but the focus is on the kind of the emotional level. I think it's that feeling content rather than maybe your Nine of Pence who's a bit of a rich bitch. Do you know what I mean? She's got the material stuff to show for her hard work. He's got all the feels to show for the journey that he's been on. So that's what that would say to me. Have you got any thoughts on it, Brian?
Yeah, I agree. I think I tend to think of this as the completion too, and also the I don't always look at it as closed off. I mean, it depends. A lot of times it depends on the scenario, but I think of it as the internalizing, not internalizing, but sort of the mental state, being able to just sort of recognize that completion outside of the distraction of the worldly goods, everything else, all of the other stuff. It's that it's sort of it's okay for people to feel that stuff for themselves in isolation and have that fulfillment and satisfaction, because that's what enables them to then contribute outside of themselves. If they feel fulfilled, if they're complete within themselves, then they can go outside that wall, uncross their arms, and start to give and to be able to extend to others, and just I don't know. It's
No, lovely. Nicky said, and this is a really interesting point. He says, looking at the cards, the magician is pointing down towards the queen, who is looking down at her pentacle, but in the direction of where the magician is.
Yeah.
He says, I always look at where the cards are looking. And to build on that point, when we look at, so when I first laid this card down, I laid it this way. I know I swapped it about a bit because I'm a fidgeter, but when I first laid it down, I laid it down like top up here, bottom down here, exactly as it is. What's nice to see is that the external, which we could see is the kind of the stuff that you're doing right now, the actions that you're taking right now, that's moving in the direction of your aim, your overall aim, that fulfillment that you're working towards. So what that says to me is it's a bit of a reassurance that the actions that you're taking right now are working towards that aim, which is always nice to know that the stuff that you're doing is working in your favor, I guess. Thank you very much. And yeah, it would be nice if people want to do a wee thumbs up. Naomi says you've taken that cup. Ange says, Nine of Cups, you've worked hard to get this far. Time for recognition and more opportunity. And Nikki says, Pride Heart, Rainbow Philly, Pride Heart, Rainbow Philly, Pride Heart, Rainbow. Okay, that's clearly an emoji, which is just not showing up on.
Not showing
in
up.
fact, I can see what it looks like on YouTube. Sorry, that's the stream.
Yeah, I see it.
I'm using that.
Yep, got it. Yeah, I had that up.
It's very nice. Okay, so that's where we're aiming now. The next card, the sixth card, will complete the kind of the cross section
Mhm.
of the Celtic Cross, and that is kind of the opposite to the past card. It's the future card, the near future card, I guess you could call it, is the direction that things are moving in at this point in time. Okay, well, it had to happen sometime. So we've got the Nine of Swords. Now, I have to say right off the bat, I acknowledge that this Nine of Swords, it hones in on, we really see that kind of maybe the more negative side of the Nine of Swords. We kind of see the sleepless nights, the anxiety, and things like that. Now, I suppose let's just sit with that for a moment, because when we start something new, we are talking about a new opportunity and a potential to go in a new direction here. When that happens, it's inevitable that there's going to be some kind of, some degree of like, oh, have I done the right thing? There's going to be some degree of overthinking.
Yeah.
That's bound to happen. Some people will do it more than others, but however, and I do really want to point this out. I said here, like, I look at nines as completion, not just completion though, but it's like it's like the high exaltedness of that energy.
Mhm.
So I talked about how this is like fulfillment. It really is. It's like the high exaltedness of the water element. So all of those emotions, all of those feels, all of that connectedness, we see that really culminating here in this high energy. Now, similarly, we've got the Nine of Swords. So this is high energy, but up in the mind.
Mhm.
Now, when that energy misfires, when it's maybe not channeled for our best purposes, that's where the overthinking and the anxiety and the sleepless nights and what we really see depicted in this picture, that's where that really comes in.
Mhm.
However, I always think that there is the potential to really do something good with that energy as well,
Mhm.
which is why I'm not always a massive fan, um, you know, of Smith-Waite decks for readings
Yep.
like this, because, well, no, a reading like this is fine because we both understand the tarot and we kind of know that this has got its good sides
Right.
and its bad sides. But when I'm reading for someone who really doesn't know the tarot, not always a massive fan of using decks like this that really just hone in on one particular aspect of the card's meaning. Anyway, I'm rambling big time here. The point that I'm making is there's going to be lots of high intellectual and mental energy, lots of communication, lots of understanding happening. I guess it's just your job in the coming weeks, months, whatever, is going to be about channeling that
Mhm.
in a way that's going to be for your best interests. And there's going to be times when you will overthink and you will question yourself. Like I say, that is natural. But I think there's a real opportunity there. And I'm not just saying that because, like it's the easy thing to say. I'm saying that from experience of pulling the Nine of Swords for myself.
Mhm.
So I know on days when for example, on days when I pull the Nine of Swords as my card of the day, I, I've learned that that can go either way. I've learned that it means that, right, things are going to be quite intense up in my head. It's really up to me how I channel that intensity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what
And
are your
I,
thoughts?
yeah, I tend to, a lot of times these days when I'm reading with RWS, and that's common, I bounce around, but I think of whenever I see the images in the RWS, if I'm reading with an RWS deck, I'm also doing it through a lens of Marseille,
Mhm.
because
Right.
I I I tend to be a lot more open with my readings with the, or I should say that is a tool that opened me up in my readings, I think, by adopting Marseille and starting to read with Marseille. That made me view RWS decks a little differently and start to kind of break down those images so that I don't react the way I used to. So, like you said, if for us reading with this and the interpretations, it's very easy for us to sort of just look at it from a broader perspective and understand that there's more to it than what's depicted in the image. And And so I do tend to do that as well. So I don't immediately react in any negative way to the Nine of Swords. I just yeah, I think there's so much more to it. And but I don't see that as a bad thing at all in this. I think part of it could, certainly part of the next step, looking at this as a sort of forward looking card, um is going to be the mental evaluation of the various moving parts and the components. And like you say, that's inevitably any kind of change is going to involve some anxiety, and there's some ambiguity to it, and that's all part of it.
Cool. Agreed. Yeah, that brainstorming phase is on the horizon, eh?
Yeah.
Great. Hershey, I know that Naomi's answered you. So yeah, we're doing the Celtic Cross. This was inspired by Brian's own live that he did when he was chatting with Tom about the Celtic Cross. So yeah, I reached out to Brian and says we could do one together. Here we are. So we've done cards 1 through 6. We now come on to the staff, or if I remember rightly, I think Tom says he calls this the scepter of the Celtic Cross.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So let me just shift this over, but in a way where we can still mostly see what's going on. Card number 7. And folks, please don't feel constrained by what card we happen to be on at the time. If you have thoughts on like the last card or even any of the previous cards, then speak up. Feel free to chat about any part of the reading. Card number 7. So cards 7 and 8 are maybe helpful to look at together. Card 7 is kind of like the you card, and it's you in the context of, right, what are you bringing to this situation? And then card 8 is like sometimes called the environment, but it's like everything and everyone else.
Yeah.
So there's you, and then there's everything else,
Mm-hmm.
and what they are bringing to the situation. We could also maybe look at it as internal factors and external factors. But that's that I suppose that's the context and what the next two positions mean. So for the 7th card, for what you're bringing, we get the Justice card. I'm going to put these on their side a smidge, or well, no, I'll leave it like that just now. But yeah, so Justice. So I mean this I suppose is maybe in keeping with that 9 of Swords and what you were saying about how you're coming into the kind of a right, it's time to think things through and actually, look at it from an objective and intellectual lens. We see the Justice card there with that sword, but with the scales as well. So quite important to be balanced and make sure that we're operating within some kind of structure here. For me, Justice is about all kind of not just like legal matters, not just laws from a legal perspective, but also like the natural laws as well. See all of your scientific laws and stuff like Einstein's theories, Newton's theories, like gravity, all that kind of a thing. Like anything that could, cause an effect. If you drop an apple, it falls. That's gravity for you, but that is a natural law and it falls within the realm of justice because it has a cause and an effect. So that was a ramble, and I've kind of put myself off. I've took myself out of my stride. Why was I saying that? I think it was just a random TED talk that we got on the justice card from me there. So yeah, but what it suggests is that you're kind of it's maybe quite important to you that you're approaching this from a balanced perspective and that you're operating within a set structure. So you don't want to be this isn't full energy. This isn't watch the full come up now as one of the last 3 cards. But this isn't a kind of a full phase where we're just kind of diving into the unknown and we don't really give a shit what's happening.
Right.
It's actually quite important that we're being careful and considered here.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose like harkens back to that Queen of Pentacles because this, ultimately this is this needs to create a stable environment for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose that's maybe where I would start with the Justice card. Have you got any? What's quite interesting as well is how similar the Justice figure is to the Magician
Absolutely.
and the Queen.
Yep.
And the Queen. Look at. Hang on, let's just do this.
Yeah.
So both these greens and these reds are both kind of and the golden crown.
Hmm. Yep.
Never even thought about that before, but yeah. So sorry, I started talking again there. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's yeah, the balanced approach is really, and it's the whole scenario is kind of differentiated from anything I've really encountered before, because I'm not in a position where I have to make a choice. I don't have to take action on anything. Um, it's the whole thing is kind of up to me if I want to pursue anything. So that's different in that the balance is totally internal. So I have to recognize both sides, the pros and, classic pro and con list. In this case, they would be balanced. They would balance those scales. And so I think in some ways that makes it more complicated, but in other ways it's a great place to be. But I think the measured approach, acknowledging the structure, those two pillars and the veil, I think, you know, I think there's um, there's a right way to do this, and dedicating some time to taking that approach and being fair to everybody is an important part of it.
Yeah, I like that. Um, I like how you said there is a right way to do this. 'Cause I suppose that's justice is when we just think about what we mean when we talk about justice and um, just conversationally, like that's it, isn't it? It's about finding the right way to do things. You know,
Yeah.
the ethical or um the true way of doing things, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
so
like a
let's see
purity of
what.
philosophy or something a lot, that
Yeah,
drives the idea of justice and mm, yeah.
yeah. What did if I can ask, and if you don't mind telling us, what did you study when you were studying for the year there?
Computer science. So
Oh,
yeah,
got a science nerd in our midst.
a little bit. Yeah. Yeah,
That's okay.
my degree is in psychology. But
Well,
yeah, um my career is not psychology. And
okay.
technology is everywhere. So an opportunity came up to add that to the list. So yep, that's what I was pursuing.
Very nice. Maybe I shouldn't have made you say that. You're probably going to get like a bunch of tarot tubers like phoning you up and saying, can't get my computer to work, Brian. What's going on? Turn it on and turn it off. Turn it off and turn it on again.
Exactly. Turn it off and turn it on. No, all I could talk about after all those classes would be, machine language and coding at the root of the processor, and just a bunch of stuff that is really useless in everyday life, and I wouldn't help you fix a computer. But it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. See, it's interesting, useless in everyday life, and yet it's the base structure upon which the whole thing works. Do you know what I mean? The coding.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that to me is what justice is. It's the base structure through which we all work. So if you look at any civilization, they've got their codes, they've got their base code, they've got their laws. Do you know what I mean? Their
Yeah.
rules of interaction and what happens when you break those rules. Like that that's what justice is. It is that base structure like on
That's
how
true.
everything works. But
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Yeah. It's funny how those 2 tie together.
yeah. Um, Beth has said, Brian, do you think you might regret not taking this opportunity? And just maybe wondering what would have happened. What would have happened if you did?
Yeah, there's definitely, that plays into it for sure. Any I guess anytime, an opportunity comes up, there's the potential for a what if scenario if you pass it by. And I think that's part of what I'm playing with the justice right now is there a way I can approach this that allows me to explore that opportunity on a deeper level without having to fully commit so that I can evaluate it? I want the best of both worlds. I want to be able to evaluate it fully and decide without committing if it's the right thing or not. And unfortunately, that's just not how the world works. So so at some point there probably will be, a decision that has to be made, and so we'll see. I'm not sure. I think there's a chance that I would regret it, but I don't know. We're early stages at this point, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny, it'd be interesting to see whether the two or the three of swords come up in the rest of this reading.
Mhm.
Because for me that pair is like the two of swords is like, oh, I'm sitting on the fence, I'm in two minds, I'm trying to get the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
And then the three of swords is that really harsh, kind of a ripping off of the band-aid, that kind of
Yep.
a no, we're making a decision on this, and if you don't make a decision, then I'm coming along with my sword just to kind of smash everything apart.
Yep.
That's maybe more of a Marseille interpretation, mind you,
Yeah,
but like,
maybe a little bit, but
yeah,
it all mashes together.
yeah. Okay, card eight, folks. Um, so this was what Brian is bringing to the situation. Card eight, like I'd said, is basically everything else. What everything else is contributing to the situation, the environmental factors, if you will. We've got the Hierophant.
Mm. Wow, this is quite a spread of cards. My goodness, Chris.
I know. I know. There's lots of red. There's lots of
Really?
this kind of a deep, regal shade of red
Yeah.
that's particularly dominating the bottom of the reading.
Hmm.
I don't know why. Don't know how to read into that, but
Well, I'm
um,
also into the directionality, and so far, direct, straightforward is the dominant direction, um, which is interesting too. But
yeah,
yeah, hmm,
yeah, lots of cards looking straight out at us.
yeah,
Okay, so let's try and tackle this Hierophant and the environment situation. So for me, the Hierophant is like one of those. So sometimes it helps for me to bounce one card off another when I'm trying to explain how I interpret it. So for me, the Hierophant and the Hermit.
mm,
The Hermit is like you're kind of a right. You're not going to find the answers outside. This is a time to go within.
yeah,
Only you can really know the right answer for you, which is very applicable in lots of situations, but not all. There's some situations where it is actually helpful to look and see, like, whether it's like let's look at the books and see what people have done before. Let's look up the theory, or let's go ask for some advice from someone who's got experience in this particular area.
mm,
That is the Hierophant. That's the Hierophant is like the traditions. It's the community. It's the teachers. It's everything that's all of the knowledge that's being handed down to us from the people that have come before.
mm,
And so I suppose one way of reading that then is, what are the environmental factors? What's coming in from outside? Some really good advice, maybe, on what you could do, or maybe there's someone there who you could go to for advice.
mm,
That I mean, maybe the reason they're coming up here is because you've not thought of it yet.
yeah,
But that's how I would read that. There's some really sound advice out there that is, just ready for you to kind of go and take advantage of. What are your thoughts on the Hierophant?
yeah. I do like the idea of the advice. That, and I haven't sought that out yet. But I think that's something I've been already thinking about. Even though it's early days, I've been thinking about, who could I talk to that could really help be a guide in this, and an outside source, um, that if nothing else, certainly talking through it, and as far as I'm concerned, I mean, this experience tonight could be the Hierophant. Sitting in this virtual room and this virtual space with you and the folks in chat. I mean, that could be it. That's certainly a part of it.
Yeah. I've actually, do you know, all it took was for me to turn the cards round, and it actually made me see it in a different way. So can we just appreciate that imagery there, both with the grey pillars,
Yeah.
like the continuation in that image, the fact that they're both sitting dead center, looking out and wearing red. So, and where I'm going with this is actually it changes how I see the card, because this is you in the situation, right? You're the central figure wearing the red, sitting between the two pillars and looking out. So by extension, you're also the Hierophant. So the external, the only extra thing that's been brought in here, I guess, is the supplicants. So when I look at it that way, what it actually says is that, like, the external factors, by all means, they can assist, and these two will. That's what they're there for. They're there to assist the Hierophant or the Pope or whoever you look at him as. But ultimately, they follow him. They follow his guidance, his leadership. So in terms of like external factors, that kind of, for me, that puts a bit of a different spin on it. It says to me, when I look at what's happening in the actual cards, externally, like this is, all eyes are on you here. You're the one that matters here. You're the one that's making the groundbreaking decisions. I don't mean to say that to put a lot of pressure on you, by the way.
Nice.
But it suggests to me that the external, that's just there as a bit of an assist. What's important here is that you do trust your own instincts and go with your gut, and feel out what actually matters to you. It's interesting, isn't it, how all I did was do that, and it just made me see it in a whole new light.
Yeah, definitely. And really it fits, you see the bottom of the pillars in the Justice card, but you see the top of the pillars in the Hierophant card, and you don't see the opposite in either. So really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just touch base with the people in the chat, see what you guys think. So Nikki says, it's a shame we can't just go to a new place of work and have a 2-week trial before accepting anything. I'd have not wasted as much time with some places that I worked if I was allowed this, if this was allowed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Employers get a grace period with employees in a lot of places, and they just sort of have the right to just dismiss people without question. But it's much tougher the other way around. I guess people, in some cases, you're sort of trapped in a way. If you need it and you don't know, you don't get that reveal. But I guess the difficult part is you have to often give up your previous position before you move to another, and that's where the trouble comes.
Yeah. Beth just said, I think capitalism relies on desperation, not free will, which kind of touches on your point.
Yeah.
Lots of yellow for courage. So when we were talking about the red, Naomi's also noticing all the yellow as well. Sorry, red is courage, yellow is happiness. Okay. Penultimate card, the 9th card, and I'm just going to shift this down so as we can still see them, because now I don't want to turn them on their side.
Right, yeah.
The 9th card is hopes and fears. I'll be totally honest, this is maybe like my least favourite spread position. This is quite a nice card for it though. We'll get the Page of Cups. So that does kind of a touch on both the hopes and the fears aspect, because there's this hope that, again, it goes back to these Cups cards. It's like you're looking for this sense of kind of not just fulfillment, but you know that innocent way that the page experiences like happiness, you
Yeah.
know, like when they see that fish jumping out of their cup and it's a surprise, they weren't expecting it, and they're just like so struck by it because of their innocence.
Yeah.
So there's almost the hope to maybe novelty. Maybe novelty is a good way of
Mhm.
looking at it. Like there's just the hope of that kind of a to experience, have that kind of a new experience again. At the same time, you know, fears could well be, well, the negative part of that innocence is, you know, the page is, you know, people can walk all over the page of cups.
Right.
The page really is the innocent of the tarot. Um, and you know, inexperienced, and sometimes you know they fear that unknown. They can fear that unknown a wee bit. So as much as there's this hope to get the wonder of that page experience, there's also the fear of like having to kind of a dive into something new, you know,
Yeah.
and be the new guy again, and be the inexperienced one.
Absolutely. Yeah, that the idea of this being in the hopes and fears spot is perfect because um what sparked this opportunity was really just that being exposed to a situation that that really feeds that sense of wonder for me, and that really fresh sense of awe and tons of I keep saying opportunity. I don't want to kill that word, but it's um, but potential. There's just so much potential. It's open. It's like an open book, and but I'm coming from a position that going back to a page scenario is very scary, and it may not require that exactly, but it will feel like that inevitably because newness tends to bring that with it. There's a vulnerability to it that's it's just um it's scary.
Yeah, vulnerable. That's the word that I was grasping for. Vulnerable. Um, okay. Let's see. What's Nikki says? Spot on. Everyone has that fear of starting something new again. Okay, the final card is the outcome card. And again, I'm going to move these down so as we can kind of see it sitting on top of the page. This is an interesting one. We've got the Six of Swords.
Hmm.
Um, that actually kind of makes me want to ask some questions. Two questions actually. One, would the new opportunity involve like in some way travel? And two, when you look at your current situation or like your experiences in your current situation, because for me the sixes are harmony, but they're kind of a like
Hmm.
overcoming the fives, you know, it's an intrinsic part of the six that you're overcoming that five.
Yeah.
So would it make sense that taking on this new opportunity would allow you to move past maybe some shit that's gone down in the past? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's funny because it's almost like it's I've been fortunate in that the I have been fairly like Teflon with all of the stuff that's gone on or impacting people around me negatively,
Hmm.
um, which has been great. But I also I I'm very empathetic, and so I feel like I'm in the trenches with them, even if it's not impacting me directly. But I
Hmm.
always know that it's probably my turn next. Like I always feel like it's I'm inevitably gonna end up face down in the mud because everybody else
Hmm.
does at some point. So I've seen it happen, and I know it's coming at some point, but I don't know when. I don't know how. And so, and perhaps there could be some travel. I'm not sure, but most of it I think has to do with uh, the possibility to find new shores, and get past that, um, what I've seen, and get past. I mean, my history is in, my first career was in emergency services too, and there's something that, that immediately comes to mind when I think about all the years I spent, in the back of an ambulance, and it. So I mean, I had to change careers because of an injury, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I guess it's my turn to ramble. I'm not sure what direction to even head with that, but it's a really interesting card to come up with because it feels right. Um, the sixes, that even the imagery of the RWS, just hopping on the boat, and it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really like this card, so I do.
Mm-hmm.
I I think it is particularly good when it comes up, and if someone's in a tough situation now, it's quite a hopeful card.
Yeah.
But I mean, like taking that aside, like it shows moving from like this kind of a like choppy waters into kind of a cleaner, not cleaner, like calmer waters.
Yeah.
Um, when you were saying there, you've not necessarily been directly impacted by any negativity, but those around you have. Interestingly, what we see here is someone who is guiding others to a better place. It's not the nicest phrase to use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it just makes me wonder whether, whatever it is that's next for you, whether it involves helping, maybe not necessarily those exact people that you were talking
Mhm.
about, but like whether it involves helping other folks.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely look, we're not moving away from the fact that the sixes are harmony cards, kind of goes back to this,
Mm-hmm.
They are really they link to the lovers,
Mm-hmm.
so everything having its opposite and everything kind of working together in harmony. Everyone's coming and going with each other. That's the nature of the sixes. And the swords are like it's the mental suit, but this is a very watery card. So as has been the case with this reading so far, like
All the way through.
there's a very emotional nature to this, as
Yeah.
well as the mental aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we see someone who's headed in the right direction. If that's the tagline, then that's really positive for what the question is, and what the outcome is showing. Someone is moving in the right direction for them. Um, they're moving to a place where they can thrive, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what folks in the chat think. Oops, Beth says Six of Swords. Moving on, both literally and metaphorically. Does this change involve growth? Hershey says, I would say this opportunity sounds like a tarot counsellor at its finest for you. I would be standing in line for the opportunity to get your perspective on the lot of direction. Nikki likes the spread too. I do think it's a positive spread to be persuaded to go for the new job. Yeah, I think we maybe kind of felt that right after the first card, didn't we? And the other cards have just been more or less reinforcing that message and providing more context. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And the
get
funny
any.
thing is too that I think one thing that I think this also helped reveal is that um I mean it's a dynamic situation. Nothing is
Mhm,
fixed. But I think um there's also an opportunity um for this to allow me to make some changes where I am and stay, but to be able to be more influential and try to take things in a direction that I think they should go. Um, and it's funny how opportunities outside of your current situation can do that sometimes
mm,
because of either a change in perspective or just a recognition of the potential for change in others around you. And I think so. I think there's a good chance that this is a positive reading for two possible outcomes, and it could ultimately be um, that I stick around, which was my long term goal anyway. And but um, because I've seen I've changed my perspective and some doors have been opened, I can come back with renewed energy to the current place. But certainly a lot of positive vibes for exploring the other one. So yeah, very interesting.
yeah, definitely. It has. Any kind of like just to bring it back to the soul card, any other thoughts on this after kind of like seeing the whole reading play out?
Yeah, it's funny how it starts to change and evolve based on that. You come in with one perspective on that, and or maybe a couple, but it um I do like the idea of the soul card because it coming back to it at the end. I see the same things reflected in it, but feel like there's a lot more going on, and I think part of that is definitely a sense of um, community and really reaching out to people that are close and trusting that that their opinions are going to help guide me in the right direction. Um, and I see a lot of support in this card. That a soul card is sort of by definition, it's almost a singular thing about as a soul being a highly personal, um, you know, uh, core of a person of their entity. However, you open that up and let others be part of it, and suddenly everything is open to you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, Naomi says very cool reading. Beth says, for goodness sake, I look at the screen and I see the Nine of Cups, the Six of Wands, the Magician, the Queen of Pence, the Ace, and the Page of Cups and the Six of Swords. I'd say this message is clear. The Soul card could be an integration of what Brian has learned in the past with his
Mm.
present.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very true.
I think this looks really good, and I'm excited to
Yeah,
kind of hear more about like where the opportunity goes.
yeah, definitely.
So you need to come back and fill us in, keep us posted, Brian.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. You'll have to be a guest
So
on my channel, and we can recap, and maybe I
I'd
can
love
return the
to.
favor in some way.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that would be really good. Um, the only thing is, it would need to be because I thought I was gutted when like because I missed that you were live. The only reason I don't know if Tom mentioned this, but the only reason that I found out that you had actually gone live was because Tom meant to email you, but he emailed me
Oh,
to
really?
say, "Oh,
Oh,
thanks very much. That was really nice going live with you."
oh.
And I was like, "I don't remember being live." Um, so he was like, "Hi, Brian." I was like, "Oh, has it got mixed up between me and you because we both did
Mm,
the hunt, the treasure hunt?"
Right.
And that's what it was. But then I was like, oh, Brian was live. And I didn't have like a notification or anything, and my blooming bell was on for you. So I was like,
Yeah.
but anyway, the point that I was, it was at like 3 in the morning though, which
Yeah, that was a
I
late
wouldn't
one
have been able
for
to
me.
catch anyway.
No, and I
Was it?
I
Yeah.
don't have a yeah, I don't have a set time, or anything, so I'm happy to jump around and do whatever, if it's on a weekend, certainly I can try to make any time work, so, yeah.
Amazing. No, that'd be really cool. I would enjoy that. And to be honest, I would stay up to 3 in the morning if it meant I got to go live with you, Brian. So it would just would need to be on a weekend because I'm like up at like there's an interesting thought. I usually get up about 5:30 for work. So I mean I could just
Yeah.
sleep and then wake up early and we could go live and it could work that way.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We'll work it
Um
yeah, I would very
True.
much look
We
forward to it.
will. Um Just some final thoughts then. After seeing the soul card now, after the spread, it could also mean a coming together card. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Naomi's seeing that too. Don't leave us hanging, and Brian, we're all invested now. And Nick says, love this little session. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everyone that's been here. It's been really great having you all here and hearing everyone's thoughts as it's all played out. And I know that it's been really helpful for me and for Brian to have you all here. So thank you so much, everyone. As usual, you don't let me down. Um, Again, Brian, I said this at the start, but I know how kind of a well, to use that to touch on that word that we used before, how vulnerable it can be to come on and bare your soul and um like have a full reading done in front of the YouTubes. So I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much for
Thank
being here.
you. And you're a very gracious host and really make it easy to um to just be here and enjoy it. And it's been very relaxing and I really appreciate everything. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, everyone, we will love you and leave you. Next week is next Thursday is the 4th of July. Um, so I'm not actually going to go live. Normally on the first Thursday of the month, Simon and I do throwback, but we decided to push it to the next week. So Simon and I will be live together 2 weeks from today, and we will be talking about a deck which will come back to me in a second. I'm pretty sure it's the Llewellyn Tarot
Hmm.
that we're going to be doing the throwback on. Next Thursday, I think I'm just going to leave it because it's Independence Day for our friends over in the States. We've got our general election happening on the 4th of July here. So I'd imagine it's going to be a pretty busy day for most. So it's probably a nice day just to take a wee break. So I'll be back again in 2 weeks with Simon. Um, but again, thank you very much to everyone for being here. Take care, everyone, and we will see you all later. Bye
Thanks
bye.
everybody.